Asaba, His Royal Majesty Asaba Professor is here seated. Before we commence any proceeding for today, we should all rise to stand up and greet His Royal Majesty three times, followed by prompting. Thank you very much. So please let me invite Professor Izebu to continue the proceeding.
Could we please stand up for the prayers before the main event starts? Could we please bow our heads for the prayer? In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Father, I lift up my eyes towards the mountain. Whence shall help come to me? My help is from the Lord who made heaven and earth. May He not allow your foot to sleep. May He slumber not who guards Israel. Indeed, neither slumbers nor sleeps the guardian of Israel. The Lord is your guardian, the Lord is your shade. He is beside you at your right hand. The sun shall not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will guide you from all evils, past, present, and to come. The Lord will guide our ways and our ways of living through Christ our Lord. Amen. Thank you very much. In the name of the Father.
They should reduce the heating. It's very hot already.
Over. Could you make some ready for the prayer?
Now, ndị Oboshi, ndị Asaba, no. You are very welcome to the Africa Center. My name is Oba Sube. I'm the chairman of the Africa Center. This is a 60-year-old iconic charity that used to be situated in Covent Garden. It has a very illustrious history. The Africa Center is the venue from which Nelson Mandela asked for his speech to be read. The Africa Center, given its significance, was visited by the King of England and Wales and Scotland a year and a half ago at my invitation. Our archives date back to the late 1950s. We have a telegram from the Pope at that point wishing the Africa Center well. So this is a place which we call a home away from home. It has over the years seen a number of very, very important dignitaries. And of course, in our midst, we have one today. Now, you're very welcome. This is what I would describe as a very poignant occasion. My heart is filled with joy, but at the same time, there's a degree of sadness because of the events that we're about to see. Before we get to the film, and indeed, we hear from the version, I will ask my CEO to say 1 or 2 words, but before we get to the film, I think it's very, very important that we bear in mind those who lost their lives. And I think all of us are here, not just to remember, but also to celebrate their lives. I want to pay tribute. I call him that because he's my brother, my cousin, for his perseverance in ensuring that this abomination remains in the minds of not just Nigerians. So without further ado, please let me call on you, please. To say a few words about your mission. Thank you.
Namago.
You can sit with me.
Namago. Namago. So I will stand on. Well, this is a rather long journey for most of us. And I'm so pleased when I look around the room. I see so many people with whom we have had that journey. And I think it's right and proper that I actually say something about that before I go into my observations. One of the most interesting long fellow traveler, here is Ife Uri. I think I saw him earlier. Is he here with us? Yes. Ife, myself, and late Ima Okocha could be said to be pioneers of this journey. And we've taken it in different directions. And one of those directions led to Professor Liz Bird of the University of South Florida. When we went there, it was an effort to begin a conversation with the world. And they received us so well. They even went as far as getting a grant in the US to come to Nigeria and do an extensive research. It took almost 3 years. They spoke to people, spoke to Asaba people, spoke to people that they said to be on both sides. They spoke to Nigerian leaders. It was a very, very, very painstaking inquiry intended eventually to produce something that will be credible. I know how many interesting conversations we had, sometimes not very pleasant in what the whole thing is about. It's not just to do a book from the victim's point of view. It was to do a book that will stand the test of time. And I like to say that I'd like this company here to commend their effort. There are actually 2 of them. There's Professor Lisbeth and also Professor Fraser Altanelli. He's not here, but he's very much around, isn't he? So if I could ask you also, I'm just speaking to the spirit of what we're doing. She's just not here alone. She came all the way from the US here. They funded themselves to be here. He's sitting demure there. He doesn't want to be seen. Can you stand up, please? And then sitting next to them as well is the dean of the medical of the faculty there in the university. He approved the grant I was sought for that research. And I was quite almost astonished when I sent the invitations. I had a response from Liz saying that he's actually interested in coming to London to see what has become the outcome of all that effort. And he didn't come alone as well. They seem to be Liverpool supporters, even they don't travel. They come with their partners. So the wife is just sitting back there. I did this because they're not really Asaba people. But my God, the level of commitment that is made over the years puts me to shame, even though I'm from Asaba. They made the job. I think it was our brother Imam Kocha had also done a book, which their research kind of leverage on. The book is, I think it's called Blood on the Niger. That was the first compelling effort. It was the first time Nigerians were actually hearing about the Asaba massacre. So when we were going to the Twitter panel, your book had not actually come. So it was the mass book that Ife Ura and I relied on, to be able to make our witness statements. I had to petition. I did the petition on behalf of the Asaba community, which for a lawyer is not supposed to be proper because I'm the victim. But such was the state of play at the time. Any lawyer you spoke to, particularly the Asaba ones, they felt it was a career-destroying thing to touch the Asaba massacre. So when Imam actually came to me, he didn't realize I was actually a victim. And he spoke to me about it. He said he was coming to me because my father was a nationalist and an activist. So I must have the same activist kind of blood flowing in my system. And I think he was right about that. So I took it up in those circumstances. So we've actually come a very long way because events I'm relating to you, if you think of a Twitter panel, that's 2001. We started 2 years or so before that. And following the publication of the book, we've had various anniversaries, memorials in Asaba. The early days, I think the federal authorities were somewhat uncomfortable because they couldn't distinguish between a memorial and the Afla. They thought this was another, what is now called Massacre. So some of us were guests of the Nigerian Security Services on 2 or 3 occasions. And the first time I was going there, I was so frightened. What can they possibly want from me? Because when they write these letters, they don't tell you why you're required. They just give you one of these general letters, and an insignificant person like me be a threat to the Nigerian state. But I went there. First time wasn't so friendly. Second time, I saw the director, and eventually ended up being a friend. Because by the time he understood what we were doing and why we were doing it, and the reasons why the country would benefit from it, he even tried to give me some assistance. And eventually, whenever we celebrate it in Asaba, he actually directs the state director of security services to be a guest. So it's something that, even though officially the Nigerian government have not done the needful, but in terms of the security services, even the police, because the Delta Police Commissioner is always in attendance when we do these memorials in Asaba. So I think I must welcome you and thank you extremely well. A lot of people here are people who have been involved with me in different ways. A lot of support. I can think of my cousin here, Ojiako of Asaba, Professor Victor Izibu. I know how many times when it gets a little tricky, because money issues can be very tricky. I would call him and I would say, send me some money because I need to pay for this and I need to pay for that. And he doesn't ask questions. But occasionally he reminds me that he's not a rich man. He says, I don't know how you do those things and you do, but I'm not like you. But he does his bit and he's done it consistently over the years. I also have Izoti, who's a fellow traveler and supporter. Where is he? Oh, it's always hard. He does the same with you. So, all I can say is you're about to watch something that took about 3 years to make. It was quite difficult, initially to get people to participate. But eventually we got people from different parts of the country. We have Wale Soyinka, who participated in this documentary. Have all manner of Nigerians, which speaks to the complexity of the issue you're about to watch. It speaks to the complexity of Asaba Massacre, because it's not nearly as simple as we sometimes think it is. Nigeria is a very complex place, and relationships cuts across. I found myself with my Yoruba friends, supporting what I do, funding what I do. And people are often quite surprised, that they do. I have Hausa friends who have supported this Asaba massacre. So despite what seems to be a particular view of it, there are many, many Nigerians who are involved, who are sympathetic, who are prepared of what we're relating to today. Finally, I would urge all of you to put some pressure at home, because I believe the reason Nigeria went a bit wrong is because impunities like this went unchallenged on armed civilians and execute them. And you don't answer any question. For blood. Somehow blood solves our powerful people. I told them that, I told them that Nigeria might not move forward comfortably because on the day our people were killed, we were singing One Nigeria. And the people that killed them were Nigerian troops. And the territory in which they were killed, Asaba, was Nigerian territory. So if you could assassinate your fellow Nigerians and just walk away, what you desecrate is the notion of what Nigeria is. So I said to them, we still have to go back to that spot where they're buried and begin to walk our way. Respect is holding the country back. If one person dies, imagine the nature of burials that are held for one person, and nobody has killed this person. Everybody troops out to remember, to honor. A 1,000 people.
Yeah, so we're just going to say that
as it is called traditionally, was founded between the 15th and 16th centuries. The descendants of his founder, and hospitable on the banks of the River Niger, made it a choice for European settlement at the dawn of colonialism, such that from 1884 to 1900, it was the headquarters of the Royal Niger Company, and therefore significant historically in this space that became Nigeria. It was also to host both the Anglican and Catholic mission stations. This enabled its indigents early access to Western education and employment in the colonial and church administrations. Soon, an educated modern elite emerged from Asaba in the early 20th century. By Nigeria's independence in 1960, this modern elite was visible in the Nigerian civil service, commerce, and the professions.
Asaba was the headquarters of Asaba division. Asaba was the first capital of Nigeria.
Also emerging around independent surrounding towns to Asaba in the Anioma area. My earliest memories of my hometown when we came back just before the crisis was of an idyllic surrounding in our village, Umuaji. Faint recollections of a peaceful fairy tale environment. The only tense moments were the loud, robust conversations between the adults. As I will learn later, the Asaba man and woman are essentially Republicans who love a good debate on issues. Yet, we were always that gentle, calm riverside town. Nothing could prepare my people for what followed. On January 15, 1966, Nigerians woke up to news of a military coup attempt, which resulted in the assassination of the Prime Minister, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, the premiers of the North and Western regions, Sir Ahmadu Bello and Chief Ladoke Akintola, the Finance Minister, Chief Okotiebo, and several senior army officers, including Brigadier Miminari, Samuel Ademodego, Colonel Skul Mohammed, Abugo Legema, Arthur Onigwe, and Yakubi Pam. Also killed were the wives of Sir Ahmadu Bello and Brigadier Ademodego. And my father, Lieutenant Colonel James Yakubu Pam, at the time was Adjutant General of Nigerian Army. At about 3 a.m., 2 truckloads of soldiers, commanded by an officer and a subaltern, pulled up to our home, disarmed the guards at the gate, and shot down the door of the kitchen downstairs, awakened the household. My father was taken away by these officers, led by Major Humphrey Chukwuka, who was the Deputy Adjutant General 1. In the army headquarters this time, that he would return him back safely. We learned later on that this was a very bloody exercise. Shortly after he was abducted, very heavy on my mother, completely changed her life, changed her trajectory, all the dreams and aspirations that she probably had. Major General Singh emerged as military head of state with the dissolution of the civilian government. There was widespread rioting in the north, the scores of Easterners killed. This was said to be based on the perception that the coup attempt had been an Igbo coup. Thousands of Igbos fled the north, returning to their places of origin. Several of these people were indigents of Asaba. By July 1966, the government was overthrown and north, alongside the violence that accompanied the coup. And by May 30, 1967, after the Republic of Biafra was declared on one hand, and the other, the Biafran borders were based on the old Eastern Region territory. But on the other hand, we were also Igbos. In fact, Sir Dennis Osadebe had been one of the founders of the Igbo Union. Things were, however, complicated by an incursion by Biafran troops into the Midwest in September 1967, toppling the regional government led by Brigadier David Echo, first headed by Colonel Victor Banjo and later by Major Albert Okonkwo. By October 1967, the 2nd Nigerian Infantry Division succeeded in pushing out the Nigerian troops largely across the River Niger. I was in the office one day, I was called upon to say, Paul, come for a meeting. So I went there, I said, we are forming a whole division. I said, wow, how would we do it? By and each battalion has minimum of 700. So where are you going to get the troops from? However, as a soldier, I'll be the last that. So I was asked to form a Tiwanga. That Tiwanga. I was given only seven NCOs. Then I was given about 11 other people, other ranks. But I was given a free hand to go to the street and capture soldiers who are loafing about. And then also to go to a door garage, to go to a prison, a Korean prison, and then to recruit. And then I think those people who were on the dying list and very long, they were happy to join the army. But we were not ready for it. There was no guns at all. And I said,
not off the street or from prison, and kept them under control.
I give them military ranks. They became my I confronted the army and Nigerian troops. As the loyal Nigerian citizens we they were, without a question. This was to be the preface to the worst tragic time. In the days that followed, I think there were quite a lot of skirmishes. They came in, they were hostile to the local population, and there were a few brutalities, a few killings. I was at Asaba and I witnessed everything live. I was a designer in Asaba textile mill when the federal troop infiltrated Delta State. But when the problem started, our people were sort of marginalized. That afternoon, everybody started running helter-skelter.
I think about 8 years.
Okay.
7 to 8 years. Okay, I'm filming.
There was sporadic shooting.
Yes.
We didn't know where the shooting was coming. The Biafran soldiers were telling us not to run, that nothing was going wrong. Then we have not seen Nigerian soldiers. Till all of a sudden, we discovered ourselves, that is the civilians, that we were alone, and that the federal troops have already circled Asaba.
So by 1967, I was at Asaba.
I was in Asaba, first week of October 1967. We had arrived from Benin City. My dad was a senior civil servant in Benin.
I anticipated for various reasons they may come to Asaba. They'll be looking for me. So when they reached my head, I decided to leave. So I went across Niger. And when I arrived in Paris, by the time we entered Asaba,
I was in primary 6, as the case may be. I was well equipped to follow events because I was on the other side of the country in Umuahia during the war. That is in the southeastern states, Abia State precisely now.
7 or 8 days I started hearing deafening ear sounds, which I've never heard in my life. Nobody was able to explain to me what it was. But gradually, people started talking about bombs. Bombs were landing in houses. We were lucky. Bomb didn't land in my father's house. but the whole house shook. I was very frightened, so I asked my younger brother, because we were very close. I said, we must run to our grandma's house.
It was the rainy season. It was wet. Ponds on the road. Lots of military activities. Soldiers. At that stage, it was mainly, I think, Biafran soldiers retreating, if you like, towards Biafra. It's just a bridge, the Onitsha bridge that connects Asaba and Onitsha. Lots of activities, lots of people in the city or the town, because people had returned to Asaba from various parts of the country. So it looked like a slightly more populated town than normal, coming to Asaba from the Benin side of the then Midwest. I would say maybe about 10 miles away, we start hearing gunshots and shelling activities taking place. And there was a lot of anxiety. So as our people felt that perhaps the federal troops of the second division had misunderstood that Asaba was actually part of Nigerian territory. So a conversation took place between the elders, and they decided that perhaps a show of solidarity might dampen down and lessen any sense of hostility that appeared, to be existing from the federal authorities, i.e. from the federal troops.
I run from my grandmother's house, which was in Louisville, and make it easier for us to run across to Onitsha too. But the sound of the bomb kept coming nearer and nearer. We were frightened, so my brother and I ran back to our house. When we got there, the whole house shook. The next day, we started hearing gunshots. Gunshots that were everywhere. Believe you me, I've never had anything of that nature. So I was confused, I didn't know what to do.
We're going to cross to Onitsha, we're going to stay in Asaba. If we stay in Asaba, we're going to be in the town itself, or we're going to move into the suburbia, into the villages that surround Asaba. Those decisions I knew were being taken by elders.
So Asaba was sort of porous. There was nobody to defend us. So when the soldiers did was to ask them,
Yes.
officially, at almost somewhere.
Yes.
We didn't know it was an invitation to come and die.
An environment that is captured by federal troops. Residents of the town shot dead in large numbers. The sheer scale of the violence is to an extent encapsulated in this excerpt from the book, Asaba Massacre, Trauma, Memory, and the Nigerian Civil War by Liz Bird and Fraser Ottonelli. Several hundred people were executed in groups all over town. Males who had been singled out were either shot on the spot or the river bank with corpses, led by the Asaba of Asaba, usually received. However, when two lots of emissaries with the same gifts, the community decided to gather on October 7 in a reception for the federal troops on some show of solidarity. On the appointed day, however, hundreds of them were shot dead, firstly with rifles, then with machine guns. The killings continued for several days. By the time the soldiers finally grew aware of the violence, about 6,000 residents of Asaba had been killed.
division of the Nigerian army. And as we understood it, it was led, he was then perhaps a senior officer, but not a general. And he led the second Lieutenant Colonel Taiwo, who was the deputy to Murjila. They led the troops that came into Asaba. A meeting was organized where Asaba people were told to come out in their large numbers to a public square, a place called Ugusowe, to assemble, essentially to receive the federal troops, mothers, fathers, children, boys, girls, all heading in this direction, and mostly dressed in white, which is the Asaba ceremonial sort of attire. And apparently we understood the orders were given by the deputy to Muritula, for the bullets to rain down on this crowd. And sadly, quite a lot of people were killed. In fact, they decimated the crowd whilst the women were watching.
On the morning of the 7th, the elders of the town had met and decided that the best way to try and stop all of this indiscriminate killing was to organize a parade that would offer gifts to the commanding officer and sort of essentially beg them for peace. So they organized a parade, they dressed in their best ceremonial attire and came through the town, ending up in a open square, and it was at that point that the people had begun to get very nervous at that point because people had been pulled out of the parade and killed on the way.
And we dress in our normal regalia, which is white and white, like a chief dressed now. Then we went into the line and started dancing One Nigeria. One Nigeria. People from Nigeria, Asaba, 5 quarters, trooped up to welcome the Nigerian troops. You come out. It was then that we became conscious of the type of fate that has befell us.
So they shot some people.
They shot some people now. Yes, Nomweke Square.
Yes.
They singled the men in particular, the boys, we were all boys then, singled them out and shot them. Then the rest continued to dance on Nigeria.
Ndị mmadụ ọ na-erisi ese ọ na-eji ya bụ ndị ike ya ndị nna anyị ọ na-aga
From that group of people, those that survived it, a few of them, a handful if you like, and then found their way to Asaba as well.
They separated the men from the women. We had crowd there, we had crowd here. Okay, you see, you cannot see these houses dead. Some were even slaughtered across the road here. You know,
Yeah.
They will just shoot them. You know, if you come and select your dead body, it was that bad.
I can see
Nedosia, Green was killed, Chukwu was killed,
yes.
Obi was killed, they're not here.
Not that.
You understand? So any name you find here represent just a family.
Yes.
Then the lineage of the murdered ones are not here. Look at Mbufa from Obermeda. Chike Mbufa was killed.
Yes, sir.
And Pedro was killed. A number of them from a Mbufa family. Obermeda.
Whenever you come here and to see these names, some of these names, how do you feel?
My heart bleeds. My heart bleeds because these are my very close brothers, relatives, compatriots.
mana anyị anụgo na ndị niile uche bụ wedogo nwa ncha maka adị akwụgo onye ọbụla na-agba ụzọ nwanne nna nne m wụọ na-agbalị nwa bụ eze ọsọchi Shelley na-atụ kwa yawa ada onwe ndị bụ etinye na moto wee gbaba si nwa agbọghọ wee gbakọwa aka Ọnịcha ọ karịa onye ọbụla n'ụzọ.
The major event for our family was when I can't remember the date now. Suddenly, two soldiers walked into my father's house. One of them was from River State, and the other one was in North. That is then he said, oh, okay. Are you? Say yes. So, okay, this name. So they went to the back, took some. He said, probably before we're going to use that as it, they were going to use it as a trick of some sort, so that they will be dissipated and then they will have the space. So people were clinging to them while we were going to go and get it. My mom then brought the baby. Said, "What's the baby's name?" I said, "Well, we've not had time to do a naming ceremony. There's no name for the baby." I said, we'll move to naming ceremony now. Jean. So we named. I don't think anybody can remember the name now. It was just words going past your ears. And then he said, I can't remember how long it took. That okay, this man should be careful now because he's on the list of people to be killed. That they won't kill him again here, but there's this bullet inside this gun is for him, or we empty the bullet in this house before we leave. Shot. And they said, and then left.
And I think we were here just before the 2nd Division arrived. My dad was actually in Enugu at the time with the other side when this erupted. So he sent a vehicle for us. Yeah, so unfortunately, the car took us across with a view of my mom, who was on the other side of Asaba with her dad in a place called Umuanaje. Soldiers going into different holes, things to people in the streets, sad exchanges abound, where she sort of challenged them. You're Nigerian soldiers, your responsibility is to protect Nigerians as civilians, not to kill, injure, or damage them. It was because of that the soldiers shot her, not even able to recover her body. So she's one of those unknown graves, as it were. The events in Asaba spoke very deeply, to my experience as a child, and continues really to speak to one in different ways.
How was I saved? I attended a New Better College on Nature. His name is Babs Ali. I didn't know that to say the Allah prayer. It was about 3 mighty graves in a field, was a field, a pitch, the football pitch, that we became apprehensive. The fact we have already gone in.
Yes.
So we were waiting for our turn. They said that the commander, it is not the same commander who gave that order, will give our own. Fortunately, in army uniform. So we should call him Bab, Baba Ali. He said, Sonny, what are you doing out with John Okonia and the few friends who were around me? We haven't gone from here to that fence. They opened fire.
On the rest of the people.
On the rest of the people.
To go and join to capture Asaba. Then Ela, Edu, and then unfortunately we had that first crossing to Onitsha. We are taught that you should never take innocent blood. It's a doctrine, like the military doctrine. You should never take innocent blood. I think we tamper with innocent blood, and the nemesis caught up with us. And we lost over 5,000 in that crossing. Okay. For instance, I went with about 640, and only 90 of us came back. Okay, just and I'm here talking to you just by luck. Asaba people did everything to prevent from forming a nuisance in Asaba. They managed to carry them to leave. And then we took from the houses to demonstrating their loyalty to the federal side. In those circumstances, soldiers were defending them with machine guns, machine gunning the innocents, and Nigeria simply walks on and moves on as if it never happened. So you had people who had Tukuka, Okochime, Zogu, who were felt when we get to Asaba, we will met ours collective punishment. Whether it was written as a written instruction, whether it was said, it was the mindset of the troops who were only 6 years away from being colonial officers themselves. And it's still even latent in the way that certain federal government civil service officials deal with state officers and civilians.
I heard about it when it happened, but I identified more with it 3 years after, in 1970, when the war ended and we had to return back to Asaba. Many felt that it was retaliation. People wanted to have their own vengeance against major. Well, to be honest, we all know now with history that Kaduna Zone came from Panam. Even though Panam is just an extension of Asaba, one way or the other, but Panam is never Asaba because of the role he played during the coup. That whatever happened to Asaba was more or less a retaliatory action, more or less a kind of vengeance by the troops.
And bring in the people who kill them on the spot and so on. That's bad enough. That's evil enough. But this was particularly evil because it actually, the officers involved in my inquiry actually summoned the people to the square under the pretense that they were, they were waiting to be formally received. And then, just open fire on them. So it was a premeditated crime.
The general belief is the best way to stabilize the situation. I think they believe that if they made a little noise, more people will be killed. So that's the best way to prevent larger massacre. Well, not really the conquerors.
When you think as conquerors at the time,
They were established, headed by Major Compos in the Midwest. Massacre was a target because they thought Zogo was an Asaba man. And Asaba was necklace to them. Everybody from this area is an Asaba man.
The events at Asaba may have simply disappeared into the information base. Were it not for the effort of Celestina Isama in sending state, and this brought the tragic news to the world's attention.
I was still so depressed, and I wanted to get this, to tell my story, to tell somebody what happened. My brother did not, and so I wrote. Rabbi did it, and the rumors they were having here that nothing was happening, and the rumors they were having here that nothing was happening in Nigeria. Everything was okay happening in Nigeria. Everything was okay. None of that nature. None of that nature. He left the letter in Oxford. He left the letter in Oxford.
The trickle-down effect of this New York Times. Yet none of these latter reports conveyed the enormity of the tragedy. In fact, they ranged from the distressingly false description by Colin Nagel, of the Observer, stating that several African magazine on the death of Professor J.C. Edozian, even citing that his body was seen in Biafran Army uniform.
I really managed West African marriage, saying that when the troops came to Asaba, there was fierce fighting. Many people were killed, and among killed, many people were killed, and among killed, the dead was Professor Edozian wearing a different uniform. Well, I was surprised. It was down. that I heard about the massacre. I was not here when it happened.
Professor Edozian was later to become the 13th Asaba of Asaba. The magazine, to his credit, later issued a retraction of this false report in a subsequent, was aware of the massacre at Asaba. For that is what it was. There's evidence that a memo was written to General Ayakubu in February 1968 by Okwabi Asika, notifying him of events at Asaba, but nothing was done to investigate the issues at the time.
The coverage of the Asaba massacre in the Nigerian press is actually quite an interesting one because there was absolutely no mention of the tragedy within the pendency of the Nigerian Civil War. Not one single reference was made to this, what was one of the most Nigerian Civil War. In the course of my research, I was commissioned during the Civil War. It's a very interesting document, which head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria at the time. And it referenced the tragedy at Asaba. And this was January 1968. The second, investigation and publicity of this now, Asaba to be precise. If only from Ajio Kwabiaseka himself to ensure that some form of acknowledgement and some form of justice was done in respect of the genocide at Asaba. Now, a further document was found, which is actually an aid memoir for a conversation between Ajio Kwabiaseka and indeed General Gowon. I do not know what actions government has taken with regard to achieving retribution for this tragedy. But I think one of the lessons of 1966 is that government is obliged in all such cases to make maximum effort to bring the culprits to book. If it has not been done, I would seriously suggest that military investigations be conducted and the responsible individuals brought to court-martial. It was a memo that clearly stated that it was important that investigation be done. It was equally important that justice be done for the people as a tragedy, not a mere inconvenience, not a mere blip, not a mere consequence of war, as has been suggested by in certain quarters.
But he did send a memo and say there's something happened there. But these things were then not made available. So I think, and that's the tragedy for me. It was the late great Chief Anthony Enahura, who was the Minister of Information for Nigeria, the federal side, at this time during the war, who I was working with in the 1990s on this Nigeria project, who gave me the inside story as far as the Asaba massacre was concerned. He was summoned to London shortly after the massacre in his capacity as the Minister for Information to come and explain the events. And when he arrived, the photographs and our was the Minister of Information for the federal side himself, because he was the Minister of Information on the federal side, who had a portfolio for he was a civilian, he wasn't. It was a tragedy. Because at the time to marry, stories were told about certain families and they couldn't take, or the people to give them the guidance through life had been taken away from them. Some people had their schooling interrupted, their domestic life interrupted, ended up in different kinds of holes and different kinds of places, simply because some acts of carelessness, some acts not well thought through, and some acts of non-reparation, non-healing, non-restoration were perpetuated and things swept under the carpet. And nobody has effectively, really boldly, confidently, calmly addressed those questions. Those as they don't exist, and Nigeria is continuing.
The Nigerian Civil War ended on January 15, 1970, and the nation returned to some peace. For the people of Asaba, it was of a deep period of trauma as it struggled to come to terms with not just the physical devastation it suffered, but the deep legacy of mental trauma that ensued. In truth, peace ended Asaba. For my family, it was a slow process of picking up the pieces of our lives. My father had been detained by the Ojukwu government almost throughout the war for his forthright views about the conflict and the need for a peaceful resolution. Thus, we had to contend with both mourning the loss of my mother and also my father's travels. That was not to be the end though, as in a further cruel twist of irony, he was also detained by the Nigerian government for a period after the war. He had disagreed with both sides in the advice he tendered to both, justifying the saying that the first casualty of war is always truth. He was later released and we began to rebuild as a family. We were not alone. This was the sad reality for several other Asaba families who suffered loss during the massacre. In spite of the seeming unwillingness of the authorities to pay heed to our pain, Asaba families grieved privately and in some cases publicly in subtle defiance. This was mostly through poignant memorial announcements in newspapers. That, for a time, was as far as they could go. And I found that generally in Asaba, that awful experience was not much sort of discussed very freely. Whenever you raised it, you saw a very deep sense of emotion, followed by silence.
Not only do you, under those circumstances, deal with the grief of loss, but you also have to deal with the very practical things that life thrusts upon you. Educating your children, providing shelter, carrying on responsibilities that had been entered into. And that's the nature of trauma that many people have to deal with, that literally for the rest of your life, you are scarred in that area. And it's all about how you deal with it and how you move on.
Very difficult, very difficult. I remember in the first, up to 17 beyond, I didn't want to hear any sharp sound, anything that sounded like a gun. When I say young man, and it was difficult to sleep. But we had in St. Anthony's in Buloko who went through the same thing. So there was that kind of community feeling to try and recover from it, if you like. But it left some psychological damage, I would think.
Many of those whose parents were killed had to suffer learning how to live a life either as single-parent children or as orphans, as the case may be. And you can imagine the challenges they must have come face to face with through school and through university, and those obviously who fell out of the university. So it changed the lifespan of so many people. And a host of young, promising people, both in the university and in secondary school, amongst others, they were all massacred. So a generation is able to take this town forward, build up their own legacy, build up their own history, develop certain things because of their immense, immeasurable talent. They were wasted at the prime of their youth. It is still etched in their consciousness, in their memory, as the case may be.
ebe niile ajụ oyi ebe niile jụ oyi nụ mmadụ anọghọzi ya egwu na-atụ nne m ọjụọ asị onye ọsị nwa egbugbe ajụ asị onye ọsị nwa egbugbe ajụ asị onye ọsị nwa egbugbe maka nne m bụ nwa Chizaye ajụ asị onye ọsị nwa egbugbe ajụ asị onye ọsị nwa egbugbe Asaba jụ oyi ọ na-akwa ndị niile wee bụ diwenụ ma nọdụnụ diwe na-azụ ụmụ nwaanyị a batarazi afụfụ na-eyi ma ya bụrụ na ọzụ nwa ndị wee bụ nwanne wee bụ n'ọya eji ezinụlọ nwa nọdụzianụ n'ebe nnewe anya ife ọbụla agba afọ mazị wee mebe mana ya bụ na ọ na-egide nnewe anya.
Hey, the character of the town changed. The women were compelled to take charge of families who had lost their patriarchs.
This man came from the US, visited and reported that he's surprised how the Asaba people treat women very well.
Yeah.
And one evidence that they found a lot of houses are owned by women.
Yes.
Beautiful houses owned by women. So they finished the explanations. So I told him the story of the massacre. That these houses were built by prominent and wealthy Asaba men. They were all killed during the war and left their wives. So the wives and the ones left in their houses and the children to educate. So the house okay, they did not realize that. And the war.
Yeah.
When I narrate my experiences, God bless her soul, my late cousin's wife, Cecilia Rodo, and your tears will flow through your hands. He said, once you start writing, you'll be shedding tears. And then by the time I had it published, and I dedicated it to my two brothers and the Asaba. And each time I pick up this book, I feel somehow immortalized them. Yes, if I could do that, maybe the spirits of my late brothers helped me. So you ask how I managed to get to write. There's
many directions in which a war extends itself, even long after it's over. And those who've been through it find our way of coping with the bad memories, negative memories. Some write about it, charitable work. Some go back to school and try to recover their entire career, which is broken off for time. We'll all find all kinds of ways ourselves. In the word disclosure, in attaining some kind of internal closure, which is more important than the superficial external one.
Time passed, this ensued. The next step was a commemorative service by Monsignor Chukwuma at the St. Joseph's Pro Cathedral, Asaba, in the early 70s. However, this was so authorities at the time, with Monsignor Chukwuma arrested and warned never to repeat this. Nonetheless, he continued, albeit in a low-key fashion. The Nigerian nation with a democratic government installed. This was short-lived when military ruling General Buhari was replaced by that of General Ibrahim Babangida in 1985. President Babangida, as he became, was married to an Asaba daughter, Mariam Babangida, Umi Okoko. She has tragically lost her father during the Asaba massacre. Rebuilt, albeit with the lingering emotional burdens that the tragedy had bequeathed. Asagba remained only hands of his wife, our daughter.
Greatly, we lost develop distance. All what we have is capital. Capital is porous and nominal capital, ceremonial capital. We are saying here that we expect that
truly, like the later, and we are special people. We are special breed. We've been able to walk through the ashes, and we have emerged stronger as a people. And we can beat our chest and say, able to overcome in spite of all the challenges. So we want to look at it from that perspective and to tell ourselves that yes, many other people, many a city would have crashed completely, but Asaba never did. And we are here to tell our story. And that is quite remarkable and highly commendable. Professor Lisbeth, you have done your part. Ima Okocha did his bit, and others. But perhaps we have to change our trajectory. And perhaps this is what will lead us to a realization of what possibly will be the closure that we desperately look forward to. Because what we're looking forward to is a closure. 58 years after, there's still not been a closure on this issue. That's why we are running helter-skelter. On the 20th of March, I led Asaba community with Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in Asuro, in Abuja. And part of what we presented was on this massacre. He addressed all the other issues that I presented to him. But cleverly, smartly, as a statesman, he was silent on the issue of the massacre. But for us, we have done our bit. We've been able to present this matter again to the echelon, the toppest level of governance in Nigeria. And we did that with a lot of courage and boldness. Not denying the fact that possibly he would have reflected on it whilst I was making my presentation. But he felt that in the interest of Nigeria at this point in time, it would be better to be silent on the matter. But we've done our bit. But we have cause to cheer. Yes, we do. We have cause to cheer. I told them on October 7th in Asaba, what was Asaba like? Post-massacre, pre-massacre. What was Asaba like? A rustic, sleepy town by the banks of the majestic Niger. That was just Asaba. Rustic, sleepy. About. But what of Asaba? Post-1967, Asaba blossomed. Asaba started thriving, flourishing. And I dare to tell the story that, look, they did not die in vain. Their blood watered the land of Asaba and threw it up to the level where we found ourselves today. So we have every reason to be happy and to beat our chest that our loved ones did not die in vain. They did not. And I also subscribe to the view. I never had that in mind. But I reflected while flying in from Abuja on this subject again. And I'm happy that it came up in the documentary. Could it be that we have been compensated? Could it be? Maybe. Maybe yes. Maybe we've been compensated, but we did not know that we have been compensated. Maybe. Because we were diverting our attention elsewhere instead of seeing beyond our shadows. Yes, Miriam Babangida was our daughter. But yes, maybe a sitting president, wittingly or unwittingly, apologized to us by, out of the blues, making Asaba the capital of Delta State. A sitting president made Asaba the capital of Delta State, out of the blues. If we take all the configurations, we were not expected to be. But Babangida, a sitting president in 1991, made us a state capital. Could it be a form of apology from a sitting president? Perhaps, maybe perhaps. But that does not discharge the obligation that we still expect from the government of Nigeria. So I want all of us to bow and queue behind on this matter. And I've promised them in Asaba, I will not rest until we pursue this to a logical conclusion. We have to queue behind wherever we are, in many ways and one. There are so many things we can do, but we will be prepared to face the challenges ahead of us. The monument there is not befitting enough. We must do a memorial in their honor, a much more befitting place. I told them that for us, it is imperative that the eternal flame must be lit there, so that from the going down of the sun and in the morning, we must always remember them. We must remember them, because they paid that supreme sacrifice on our behalf. But have we done well as a people? Yes, we have. We have become more resilient. We are tenacious. We are committed. We can persuade any project to a logical conclusion. And we all queue behind, making sure that we're able to achieve whatever we set out to achieve. That is in our DNA. That is the true attribute of a true Asaba son and daughter. Maybe we have been toughened by the challenges of 1967. And that is exactly what a people forged in the furnace of a disaster of that magnitude. That is what is expected of them. So I want to thank everybody that has come out to join us in watching this premiere. And it is for us now to take the story away from here in any form possible. If there's a way you can send the soft copies so that it can populate the airwaves anywhere available. We have done the bit we can do in Nigeria. This is the next stage. To internationalize this conversation, so that we take it away from here, let it go to every part of the globe, so that this story will be told. And when it gets to that stage, the government will be forced to the table to now ask us questions, what do you really want? As regards the issue of the National Assembly, I'm aware that it is now ready for discussion, and the issue of reparation, as the case may be, we are monitoring closely. And I believe that all those who are representing our interests will be able to go to the National Assembly and see how they can make their own contribution. We should be able to think of donating chairs, professorial chairs, be it in Dennis or Sadebe University, where some of these issues can now be taught, and students are made to understand that something of this nature took place in Asaba 58 years ago. There are so many things we can do for ourselves. But this is the beginning of the conversation. So let us start the engagement amongst ourselves and see how far we can take this story and continue to remind ourselves of what happened. And the major output for us is never again. The rules of military engagement must be made to be understood by the soldiers in Nigeria. Let's face it, it has happened in Udi long after Asaba. It has happened in other 1 or 2 places. What is happening in Plateau perhaps is worse than what happened in Asaba. So we're still replicating this same mistake. And that does not tell the good story of Nigeria and our people generally. So the more we make noise about it, the more people are tempted to believe that armed conflict may not be the best option, whether it is through terrorism or banditry, as the case may be. That shouldn't be the way forward for us as a people in Nigeria. But the Asaba massacre story is one that we can never foreclose until government of the day apologizes to Asaba. And then in terms of compensation, if at all, something must give way. But let us continue to bring this to the front burner of international discourse now, because we have left the shores of Nigeria. Now we're internationalizing the issue, and we'll continue to do so. Professor Lisbeth and your colleagues, take this back to US and let us start this journey all together.
Namago. That was a highly inspired and inspiring speech, and very well received by everyone. Some of our great people that have come from a few places, one of them being a name that has very calling your speech. With your permission, I'll just call her to say a few words. And after her, I'll call Dr. Adams to say a few words, and then John Silverman. And then we'll end your torture. I know you've been here for too long, taking all this. So, Prof, if I may.
Thank you, Your Majesty and Chief Secretary. I have prepared remarks. I'm not going to inflict them on you because I think at this stage, I think we've probably heard everything that has to be said and has been said about what happened in Asaba. It's been an honor. I never expected when I first came out to Asaba in 2009, I think, I never expected to be standing up here 15 years later and with all of you and reflecting on what has happened. I think the words have been very inspiring. I think the moment is now to go forward. I know that Chuck has often spoken about having an adequate memorial space, more than the monument, but a museum of sorts that would tell the story, but not just tell the story of what happened in Asaba, but also be a place where people could come to think about reconciliation, about peace, about people speaking of the past, but coming to terms with it and thinking about the future. And I hope that one day that memorial space will be fully realized. And I hope when it is, I'll be back again.
Thank you. I also had some remarks prepared, but I'll be brief. I just want to say, first of all, Your Royal Majesty, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. My wife are humbled, and I are humbled to be here. I want to congratulate Chuck on a remarkable achievement, such an incredibly moving and powerful and memorable and effective documentary. I've rarely seen anything quite like it. I promise you that we will take this message back to the United States, and we will take this message back to our students. We have many students who are interested in these matters and interested in this history, and we will make this part of our curriculum in the United States. I want to say that I'm very proud that the University of South Florida has been a part of this project. We're very proud of the support that was provided to professors Bird and Otonelli. We're very proud that we've been able to support this because this is what universities should do. This is what universities ought to do. It should help to uncover the truth, and it should help everybody remember what has happened in the past. Because if we don't remember what we've done, both the good and the bad, as was said in the documentary, we don't know who we are. So going forward, we must remember and carry that memory forward in Nigeria and in my own country and in many countries around the world. Again, I'm honored and humbled to be here. And thank you very much for your time and your attention.
I'll invite John Silverman. John Silverman was the ex-chief Home Affairs correspondent of the BBC, but is now a professor of criminology. He also helped us a lot when we were putting together this issue. So just a few words from him. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you very much for inviting me. I will be briefer than brief. That was a remarkable film, and I just want to pick up on one of the sort of ending points about commemoration. Earlier this week, I went to the Tate Modern, which is only a few hundred yards from here, where, as you may know, there's an exhibition on Nigerian modernism. And I went because I knew I was coming here and I wanted to sort of steep myself in the sort of cultural aspects of pre-colonial and post-colonial Nigeria in the 20th century. And it struck me that art and cultural artifacts are a very effective way of commemorating an event like the Asaba Massacre. And, you know, after all, who would still be talking about the town called Guernica in Spain if it hadn't been for Picasso's famous painting? It would have disappeared from memory because there were so many other crimes committed. So, you know, art and obviously some form of permanent commemoration building or whatever in Asaba is crucial, but it strikes me that in place of any kind of judicial redress, which, you know, after all this time is probably most unlikely, but culture and art, possibly the development of the university, Asaba, Federal University, can do the job that justice has so far failed to do. Thank you.
Thank you.
When I looked around before, I saw the executive director of this film. He seems to have disappeared. He had to come all the way. It was his wife's birthday yesterday. He came from Spain. I think he's left us. Is he here? All right. What remains for me to just say a few thanks to particular people who have made this journey less stressful. I have Chike Ogeda, who's been a consistent member of the committee. Played a key role in that aspect that His Majesty commented on, putting it out there. Sometimes it's through Chike that we get Arise, This Day, and all the rest of them, you know, to take on this battle for us. Have Ken Odogo. I think I saw him a moment ago. Is he hiding somewhere? Where is it? Active member of the committee and has helped immensely. And is always in everything we do. Call him on very short notice. He shows up. I mentioned my brother Anthony Modi, Izoti Abba, my fellow traveler in many, many, many other ways. Over and above Asaba Massacre. Well, I have a very close friend of mine. I think her ears have been dead over the years over Asaba Massacre. She's Raika. She was my fellow legal practitioner when I was practicing here. We shared a room together. There's nothing about me she does not know. And I can safely say so because her husband is there. They've been very, very close friends of mine. Ed, come and stand here. And because I won't close this without, of course, mentioning our very own Dr. Ifi Urai. And the journey of this, what you're seeing today, started with him. I remember a meeting Ima and I had in his office. He was working in one of, I think, the big company or Wamco. So we came to see him because we were told that the most credible sort of eyewitness account of what we're dealing with was him. So we went to see him. He was a director in this company. So we sat with him and we discussed at length. And in this very, very quiet, calm, but deep manner, he took everything in, listened with interest. We agreed a date when we were going to Enugu for him to give this momentous sort of evidence. I think a day or two before that, he developed something of a cold feet. You know, so Ima called me and said, it looks like we've lost our main witness. And I said, why? He said, well, there's just that issue of the hostility of the Nigerian government. And the poor fellow could lose his job. You know, it was a high-paid job. It's built up a career over the years. You know, so I said, I know that Mr. Dr. Wright that I saw would put what happened to his father and mother beyond the job. Don't worry, he will turn up in Enugu. And if he turned up in Enugu, and it was the account he gave because it was so crystal clear, because it was so real, that actually gave the soul to what we're doing till today. So he's a pillar, you know, of this experience. And I hope over the years he's received some comfort from that awful thing he witnessed as a child. So, well, the gentleman standing next to me is the chap without whom what you saw today would not have been possible. You know, documentaries like this can cost you $1 million, can cost you $2 million. But when you have a believer, it can cost you what you can afford. So it was because I had Ed that I was able to make this documentary.
God bless.
I think it's fitting that you should be the last person you should hear from. So Ed, over to you.
No, I go. I know that's a tradition in Asaba. And I was close to learn it because you don't get back on the job like this without immersing yourself respectfully and deeply in the tradition of the community which you're working with. I won't say too much, otherwise, you know, for this to come to the screen has been a very long journey of about 3 years. 3 years of very hard work. I want to commend Wishinami, Chokundukeze. We first met 8 years ago. Incidentally, when as we say in Pidgin English, I used by force to organize a book reading of Asaba Massacre, Trauma, Memory, and the Nigerian Civil War. Professor's book, and Professor Bird and Professor Tinelli was there. And it's quite interesting that quite a few people were thrilled to attend an event, a book reading, because they said, oh, we know. And then we met that day, and the long journey has come here. It's not been easy. You know, even in the editing process, a few times, I went to Enugu twice on my own expenses. Well, once on my own expenses, say, look, we need to get this right. And even 2 years after, we watch this and we shed tears, myself and the editor. You know, it was a labor of love for Asaba. For Asaba, for all of us as human beings, because the stories here have been reflected in many other places. It's about time we start to look at the culture of impunity permeating our history. And one thing is that the souls of those who are lost, we cannot bring them back, but we can honor them And that was what this work tried to do. So, I don't think you know what you've done, but I know also the pain you went through. Recording those spoken at the end, we did it about 3 or 4 times. And the last time, and I was looking for perfection, but I could see that this gentleman, a strong man, was going through so much pain. We said, this is where we stop. Anyhow it is, that is how it will be. And I want to thank Asaba community for its strength. Like my dear sister, former client, my big sister, late Onyeka, who said, you are an incredible people. You are unbowed, unbroken in spite of the pain, the legacy of things that has been inflicted upon you. But there's a God, and the God who vindicates the just. Thank you so much.
No. Yes, this has been a very deep and meaningful gathering, and it's taking place in the Africa Center. We're proud to have hosted you today, and for our part, we can vow that we will continue that path with you to make sure that we never forget. I just want to thank our CEO, Pak Ololaki, who's there. I want to thank Chike, who's patiently there, a student from Nsukka University, where my father taught. Chike, thank you very much. Last but not least, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to come out today on a Sunday evening. I'm a very, very proud Asaba person, and the reason I'm so proud is because you make me proud as people. If you can remain with us a little bit longer, we have refreshments next door, please. Drinks and food. I know that there's other pressing things in your time, but we welcome you next door. Please stay with us for a little bit longer. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending.
They should respect my wish.
Go this way. Wait, let me check. Do it. What do you want? I want to take it. You're coming outside. Okay, I think they have who get this? We will put there. How about this food here? Upstairs, no, the other matter now. I'm not the same upstairs. More people have come, so it will be better. I think this is Asaba school. Is anybody living this coat? Coat. Yeah, I'll take it to him. Yes, my cousin. I'm only that's Chuck's equipment. Everything here belongs to Chuck. Wait, let me carry it. No, it's not coming down. Let me take it.
Okay, it's
Chalk and everything. Chalk on our chalk. Okay. Thank you. That's good. Okay. Then come cover.
Okay. Everyone.
The same upstairs. What are they, do they use here for lectures or what?
The one you are rushing. Oh, come on. Where's your rifle? Yes, this way there. I don't know the upstairs I am, but there's no space. There's no space for anybody walking about. Okay, they are downstairs now. Well done. Very nice. Sweet. Yeah. Put them here. Where's this? If we don't find any in us, some of you. Which I can do here.
Okay, I'll give it to my daughter.
Okay. My guy. Well. This is the upstairs. That was the upstairs.
They said drinks are upstairs.
Okay. I will queue, but we just. How are you? Okay, people do. When they cool one by one. You take my place. Oh, the people that serve. Okay, Louisville. Are you driving?
No, we'll check.
Uber. Okay. Okay. That was a great job. Okay. Well, not posted here. I'm full of for tour. I'm not just saying. What's the daily account now? I'm not going to pay it. How's the daily account? It's again. Also, the way the headache came up with link. Oh, get so calm down. Yes. Yeah, we're linking. Make your own. I'm holding something for Harry. Hurry up, man. Man, before on a name. Okay, live with on. Now let's see our glorious people. One is doing KG because of you. One is doing. You can't get the bigger. Maybe all these people there. Asaba and one to one hour worry from down the car.
If you're right, I'll join you. I'll join in many times. He didn't join. I ain't the one saying on this if I don't. But I'm so if you're right, he wasn't there.
No, it's gonna be the source. And so everything is here, and the allergy now here as well. You know, you can't read it, but the allergy.
Make my own big go.
That's chili sauce here.
Okay.
That's a chili sauce. Pepper, yeah, pepper. It's a pepper. Where's chili? Where's pepper? The pepper is there.
I don't want too much
tomato sauce. That's a tomato sauce.
I don't want too much sauce. What's this one?
That's the sauce as well.
Is it tomato too?
Yeah, that's tomato too. You want pepper?
Take this pepper. Sorry, let me go. Range Rover. Abba, everything coach.
Our ticket, junior brother.
No.
Why?